So, in this video I'm doing something a little different. Basically, 1 year today, I drew a character called Stevie the TV. He was my first character I ever designed in pixel art. While I was drawing pixel art at that time, it was mostly to make nice objects or fan art. So Stevie was really my first original character to create. And for his 1 year anniversary, his birthday, I decided to redraw him in pixel art in a different way, using maybe a different technique or a different art style to see what I can make. So this is kind of like a special video. There'll be 2 videos in one day because this is Stevie's birthday video. And I feel like it's kind of an anniversary of my first originally made character. Yeah, and hopefully it's going to be a tradition I'm going to do every year when I'm going to take Stevie's design and redraw him every year on the 1st of September, which is going to be really cool. And also just so you know, this doesn't involve the theme, or at least it doesn't this time. Maybe in the future it will. Anyway, that being said, let's get straight into the video. So going into this piece, I started by just putting down some blobs of where I wanted some rough shapes. I didn't really have a good idea of what I wanted at this point. I was still debating whether or not I was going to keep this line work design. But I knew very much if I wanted a 3-dimensional design, mostly because when I first started doing this, I didn't show as much depth when it comes to, again, 3D shapes. My original image, as shown on screen, is just a flat 2D image. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to bring him more 3-dimensional and show my skill of shading that I've learnt within the year. Understanding how the light goes on the top, the side furthest away from the camera, light source is going to be the darkest, etc. I then started blobbing in some colours which I took from my original piece, and then started to try and replicate the eyes I created, but I couldn't remember the correct proportions. After I got something that looked roughly right, I still wasn't overly certain that I was happy with this eye, but I started working on the antennae, which, if I'm being frank, was quite hard to make it look 3-dimensional, but once I started putting in some line work around it, it looked a lot better. At this point I didn't realise that the top would be the lightest piece, so I kept messing around with best colours to see what I can get to fit. I do change around the colours on the final piece, just so you know. I then started putting on some dirt, which I didn't really like and didn't end up keeping. I just decided to bring it all down a tone darker. At this point I was really happy with Stevie's design. I think I've rebooted him in a much more simplistic manner. And with the video being so short, I wanted to start putting him in more decorative areas, like I did with the original one with him being on a nightstand. This background is taken from one of the original pieces, much later designed though, when I had a green background colour. I wanted him to look like he's on a shelf, like he's going to the store and you're seeing a bunch of these TV designs. But I couldn't really figure out, as you'll see later in the video, how to get this looking with this 3-dimensional look. I think I made the canvas either too small or not big enough. I'm not overly certain. At this point it started looking like it was on the top of a counter, so I added in some more shading and I'll end up scrapping this look. I then wanted to redesign all of these TVs to bring back some of my earlier TVs. As shown right now, there were a bunch of other designs such as Rex the TV, which is the angry TV before Stevie, who I'm drawing right now. Basically all I then ended up changing was the colour red and getting rid of the aerials. The red blobs around the side was meant to be representation of veins. This was Stevie the TV 2, who was no longer the sad TV, but he was meant to be the happy TV, which, if you saw my original YouTube channel, Stevie the TV or the sad TV, you'll see in the end of Stevie the movie, I prelude to this character. Here I kind of figure out if I can blob these characters together with this 3-dimensional look, kind of making like a row, making them all join up together. And then of course I started to draw Evie, who was personally one of my favourite characters I created. This was obviously the love interest to Stevie, and he was the reason Stevie's sad. He was actually a real life representation of me and my own dating life. I also wanted to do something new with this bow and add it on a angle rather than the straight bow I had in the original piece for her. So yeah, it didn't end up just be me rebooting Stevie, but me rebooting Stevie and the gang, while also creating a new background for him. At this point I also did make the background darker, so it was not the same shade as any of the TV's colours. And then I started to blob all the TVs together in order to get this like row look, like a bunch of TVs stacked on top of each other, which was a look I have for a music video I'm working on, but I thought I'd test it out here and see how it looks. Personally, I think it could have looked really nice, but I just think the canvas size was too small. Here's also a mistake I made by joining them together. At this point I have to go back and separate them so I can get an export of them separated. And here's kind of where I fixed the colour as well. I think this actually looks a lot better for Stevie. At this point I then started blobbing in a bunch of colours and designs for the other TVs. To make it look like they weren't all just the same TV, I wanted to have an angry Eevee, a sad Stevie the TV too, a brand new TV, along with preludes of some of the other TV characters I created, such as Stevie when he tries to hypnotise people to subscribe. If any of you still remember the Sad TV's old subscribe video. Some of these were meant to be a prelude to Stevie's animations, where Stevie's either in love, dies, or cries. In fact, one of my first animations was actually drawing Stevie crying. Here was also a mistake using pure dark. I figured this out in a different piece not to use pure black, but it still will be quite a while until I realise this. Here's also a good old error message on one of the TVs, a brand new design, and I actually really do love this. It was meant to start off as an LGBTQ piece. Here I create two new characters. The one you just saw was the blue TV, which has no name, please feel free to name him, and the white TV, where I figure out black is too dark. All of this was just to give more variety, and a bunch of these TVs did end up being just plain colours. I also ended up giving the TVs themselves different colours, just to differentiate themselves from all the TVs. Because every old TV you get would not be the same type of wood. It wouldn't be just all oak wood. I added what this was meant to be like spruce wood and oak wood. Birch wood. I don't really know wood, I just know it from Minecraft. I also took away some of their panels, give them different shape panels, and I do wish I did more with their designs. These panels by the sides was meant to be representation of the old buttons, but it's not overly transparent in these. And here's all the TVs stacked on top of each other. Personally, I think this gives away from the three-dimensional look, which I enjoyed, but I'm very happy with it nonetheless. And that being said, let's see the final piece. So this is what I made for Stevie at the end of the year. I'm actually really happy with it. I think I did really good. I don't know, I posted it on Twitter asking for feedback, and I got some really nice feedback saying how it shows I've understood perspective and shading, which I think is not true. I don't know, I do prefer the original Stevie's design, but maybe next year we can do a much more stylized design, like within a video game art style, maybe. I don't know, that does sound cool. But yeah, this is Stevie 2021.